Okay. 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 I'll sign and bring it up. Okay, thanks. Good morning. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Monday, November 15th meeting. It is 11:02. Nan Baker. Dale.
Here.
Jim Boyle serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Present.
Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Catherine Takachik.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's take a second to review the minutes from the November 8th Board of Control meeting. Are there any corrections? Okay, hearing no corrections, I make a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Is there any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, moving on to contracts and awards. First item.
First item, BC 2021-648, Department of Development submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in a payment to Team NEO Foundation in the amount of $25,000 for operating support to promote Alaska Airlines nonstop daily air service from Cleveland Hopkins International Airport to Seattle Tacoma International Airport for the period November 15th, 2021 through December 31st, 2022, and recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning. Paul Herdig with the Department of Development. Very pleased to bring this item before the board. This represents a success of our local economic development community. We have been able to get an agreement from Alaska Airlines to restart nonstop air service from Cleveland to Seattle. We've been without this service for several years now. We normally don't get involved in domestic air service, but there's a reason we found this very attractive. Alaska Airlines has code share agreements with other major airlines, and this new service will provide very convenient one-stop service from Cleveland out to Tokyo, Seoul, Beijing, Taipei, and other major business centers in Asia. So it's something the business community is actually very excited about. As evidence of that, we have matching funds coming from Greater Cleveland Partnership, from Destination Cleveland, from Team NEO itself, each of which is putting $25,000 in to match our $25,000. And on top of that, Jobs Ohio is matching the local money, the $100,000 local money, 4-to-1. So there's a total of $500,000. Now the money will be used for a revenue guarantee, which means we may get it back. If Alaska Airlines is successful in its first year of operation, the revenue guarantee will not be needed, and we will actually get our money back in full when that's been determined. That'll probably be around the middle of 2023, we would get that back. In addition to this money, Cleveland Hopkins Airport is waiving landing fees. That's worth at least $283,000. And the City of Cleveland, through its airport authority, is also providing $100,000 to market the new route. So again, we feel that our modest contribution is leveraging quite a bit of other money and adding something to the business climate here in Cleveland. As you can tell, I'm excited about this. I ask for your support.
Are there any questions on this item?
I have one.
Councilman Miller?
Do we have a commitment from Alaska Airlines that if we do these things that they will proceed, or is it still in negotiation?
Councilman, it's been publicly announced. This was actually revealed in a release that was published in Crane. So yes, the airline has made the public commitment to start the service. It's the start date will be June 16th of 2022. I actually checked. You can book the flight on their website if you want to.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Mr. Boyle?
So, I assume that you have a criteria list of what the metrics are that they need to hit for us to get reimbursed, correct?
The revenue guarantee itself, the details have actually not been fully revealed to us. We simply know that it's measured such that it's intended to give them confidence they can maintain that service for 1 year, and certainly the hope is that they'll find it so profitable they'll continue after that time.
And so, how are we going to track it, you actually, to see whether they meet the terms so that we do get reimbursed?
We will, in fact, be relying on Team NEO because the same applies to the other local contributions. We'll be working with Team NEO. It's Walt Good we work with over there. who may be able to share some information confidentially that can't be released as a public record.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions? Hearing no further questions, I make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-649, County Treasurer, recommending an award on a purchase order to the Pre-Sort Center of Stockton, doing business as PacWest, in the amount not to exceed $61,000 for printing and mailing of 2021 first half and last half real property tax bills and delinquent tax bills for the period December 1st, 2021 through November 1st, 2022.
Good morning, Ray McDaniel, Deputy Treasurer for the Treasury Office. I'm here to present a contract for our tax billing for tax year 2021. This will cover printing costs for the first half as well as the second half of 2022, and it will cover the third billing. We only received 2 bids from this. The current vendor was like $10,000 higher than the lowest bid. We decided to go with Presort for 2 various reasons. One, they had the lowest bid, and 2, they printing facility is local. It's located in Berea, Ohio.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes.
Miller?
How much transitional impact is there of switching to a new vendor? Is this something that happens seamlessly, or is there some adjustment that's required?
We think that the transition is going to run smoothly. It is our understanding that the employees, or some of the employees, the account manager that works with Presort is familiar with this process. So as soon as we get this approved, we're going to sit down with the new vendor and talk with them with regards to our dates and making sure that we get the first bills out in a timely manner and let them know about our expectations.
Have we given any thought to bidding this for more than 1 year at a time?
1 year at a time? Yes, we have decided that when we talked about that, but there hasn't been any other further discussion.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Just I'm sorry, Nan, did you?
Go ahead.
I assume in the bid that the dates were articulated in the bid package that went out, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so the vendor is a term of their being selected. Obviously, the dates that are established for these mailings are already included in there, and they're aware of them. Not going to be any issues with that.
The vendor is fully aware of all the statutory requirement dates that we need, and they are also fully aware of the fact that we need to give the taxpayers at least 21 days to pay their bills.
Got it. Thank you.
Just quickly, this includes first half of 2021?
It's
So-
first half of, it's the tax year 2021, but it's actually going to happen the first half of 2022. So the first half, the taxes are due January 27th, I think, of 2022.
Right,
That's the last day of collections.
and so these bills will be going out, when do you target?
These bills should be going out prior to Christmas, around the last week of December
Last week?
of 2021.
And given that this is going out relatively quickly, this is the end of November, any concerns of negotiating this so close to a mailing date? Would you have been better to do it 2 months ago to
Of
prepare?
course, it probably would have been better to do it 2 months ago, but we're going to deal with what we have right now. We know and we understand that we have to get the bills out and we have to get the information into the vendor's hands by the end of December, and we're going to make that happen. We're going to do whatever we need to do to make that happen.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So, to follow up on that, I presume that Presort already knows that they've won this bid and that some work on getting prepared to do this mailing is already underway. It doesn't have to wait until we approve this, is that correct?
We have had a discussion with them, letting them know that we are, want to have preliminary talks. We want to recommend them for the bid itself, but we're waiting on council's approval before, or the Board of Controls for approval before we move forward So as soon as we get the approval, then we will have those conversations with them.
We gotta get going on this, move approval.
Absolutely. We gotta get moving on this.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we will have that conversation.
Approved.
The date's
We will have that conversation today.
like now.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-650, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with AT&T Corporation for Internet Service Provider and Distributed Denial of Service Security Services for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2023, to expand the scope of services for an additional circuit to support the automated fingerprint identification system for the Office of the Medical Examiner, effective November 15th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $190,080.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This item is to add an additional circuit for the APHIS system that is currently being housed at the medical examiner's office. We did realize much later after that we posted the RFP, that we needed to have a circuit that's separate from the other county circuits, as the APHIS system is accessed by external agencies such as City of Cleveland and other areas such as that. So once we realized that, we started the procurement to amend the contract to add this additional circuit onto our existing contract for services with AT&T.
Are there any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker?
I'm only going by memory. Didn't the APHIS, was the cost of that around 300,000?
For the servers, Hugh is coming up to answer that question. I was not in at that time.
I know we went through a process there for this equipment, right?
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. So their total cost to redo the entire system was in excess of $600,000. And then there was a maintenance cost of another $300,000.
Okay, maybe that's it. Okay, so I guess the question to now realize that we need to invest another 190, that's a pretty significant increase for a product that was 600,000. I mean, that was a
So
surprise.
the AT&T, the circuit is not 190,000. We already had a contract for AT&T. The circuit is being added to that original contract.
This is an additional circuit to the original contract we had.
Right.
I believe we already had 2 circuits plus DDoS services, which is a security service for those circuits, and we're adding the $190,000, which is for the APHIS security. We couldn't have, because we couldn't just add it onto our current circuits. We had to have a separate circuit to secure our access, the county's access, separate from the other agencies. It is an additional cost to the APHIS project as a whole, yes.
That's what my question was.
Yes.
And we didn't know that at the time that we.
No, we originally RFP'd these services in 2018, which was before those discussions even occurred. So once it was realized that we had to add those, this particular service, we added that.
Okay. All right, thanks for the explanation, appreciate
Sure.
it.
Additional questions? Hearing no additional questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-651, Department of Information Technology, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to vCloud Tech Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $42,400 for Nitro PDF productivity software licenses for the renewal of 400 licenses for the period October 29th, 2021 through October 28th, 2022, and for the purchase of 400 new licenses for the period November 15th, 2021 through October 28th, 2022, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Nitro PDF is the county standard for PDF editing software. So we had some original licenses which numbered about 400. Those were perpetual licenses, and due to the change in how the manufacturer of the licenses now offers the licenses, they switched from perpetual to a subscription-based model. So that's why we have the original 400 licenses plus for new licenses for 400, because we had to account for those original set of licenses that were perpetual that they changed over to subscription-based, and also give us room to grow. We currently have about 700 licenses in use, and we have an additional 100 as we get other requests that come in.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Miller?
Countywide, how much money do we pay annually for software licenses?
Or just in all software licenses?
Yes.
That is not something I have off the top of my head, and we can.
I didn't
probably
expect
calculate.
so. Could you find out and get back to me?
Sure.
And secondly, do we have one person that is in charge of this area?
Of software licensing?
Yes.
So not one set person, because their software licensing can be procured by the department. So outside of IT, they can do some procurement for that. If there's something that IT processes, we'd probably be able to answer that. But there's not one set person that monitors all the licensing across the county as a whole.
So the reason why I'm bringing this up is that I think that when you add up all the licenses, it's going to run into the millions a year.
Oh, I'm sure, yes.
And I think if you were to have someone look at this whole thing strategically and ask, where do we not have licenses that we really need, and where do we have licenses that we really don't need? I think we could end up saving some money for the county. So just putting that out there.
Okay. Again, it would be a project in of itself, just like coordinating with all the departments to figure out what software licensing they each have. But again, we can tell you what, from what IT procures, the amount that totals.
My guess is that it would be worth it. I think that it, but let's start by finding out what the annual subscription rate is.
Okay.
See how much money we're talking about.
I do have that noted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on this item?
So, and maybe I misunderstood it, but so when we initially had the agreement with Nitro, we had perpetual licensures. Is that my understanding?
That is correct.
And then, which I view as kind of eternal, they last forever. But then they changed their product during from a legal I guess I'd ask law more than anybody else. It sounds like we had an agreement with them. They changed their terms of their contract midstream and are now mandating that we pay them more money. Am I misinterpreting that?
To
It may
some
not be an
degree.
IT question. I apologize.
Yeah, maybe a question, but to some degree, the perpetual license, we were significantly behind on updates and things like that. I believe this version that we are procuring is version 13, and we were on 9 before. And so all of the features that we would employ now, because there's also like a document signature portion that is being employed now, wouldn't have been in use
Oh, so
on the
our
older ones.
perpetual licensure was only for the
That's
version 9 or whatever it was.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
correct.
I would ask, I'll talk to you afterwards, but if you can just kind of double check on that, I'm curious more. Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
Any additional questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-652, Department of Information Technology, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Integrated Precision Systems Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $6,197.21 for a state contract purchase and installation of access control equipment to secure the door to the special response team in the Correction Center at the Justice Center, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This item is to install the access control equipment to the special response team room at the court tower. As I understand it, without this installation, essentially the whole area would have to be shut down, which makes it a staffing issue. So they are requesting to add this portion onto the integrated precisions agreement in order to secure that area of the 10th floor in jail 1.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-653, Department of Information Technology, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Integrated Precision Systems Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $26,450.56 for a state contract purchase, installation, and programming of a server to support security cameras in the Correction Center at the Justice Center, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This particular item is to provide an application server and a failover server for elevator cameras, high-risk prisoner cells, and cameras that show the routes from the jail to the Justice Center. Again, this is just to house the data for the cameras that are in these areas.
Oh, okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-654, Department of Information Technology, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to TEC Communications Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $250,000 for professional cybersecurity and incident response services for the period January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. This item was originally procured through RFQ that was in the end of 2019 for services. I believe we sent it out to about 25 vendors and 2 submitted proposals in response to the RFP. It was tabled for much of 2020, but due to the pandemic, IT was responding to other areas. And once we looked at and assessed our needs for incident response, we did move towards using this contract. This was initially something we thought that we could get under the CARES Act, but by the time we got contracts and things together, the funding ran out. So we shuffled some things around in our operational budget to cover the cost of this. So we're not asking for an additional appropriation. We are asking for the approval of the contract for services that were already in use.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
The original RFP was
Yeah, in the 2019.
So we're on, and how many amendments, and I apologize, but what
This isn't an amendment for this one. This is an original contract.
Any additional questions? Councilman Baker?
So just so I understand, this began in January of this year and is going to be ending here in another 5.
Correct. In theory, we're looking at our usage, so we could potentially come and extend this contract, which for $0. But we're looking at our usage. I discussed that with our Chief Information Security Officer, Jeremy Mio, to determine our usage and to see if we can expand that. And again, it would be $0 added into the 2022 budget if we need to expand and extend the contract.
So the $250,000 for this contract, if I'm hearing you right, would be extended. Those dollars can be used for next year.
That is correct.
If I may, so the dollars that you were able to cover this contract with, where did those dollars come from?
We looked at, and this is largely my responsibility, to look at how we are spending on our contracts to see if potentially there is some room for us to not spend as much money as estimated on some things, or if we had some operational needs that we could have shifted in other areas. So we examined pretty much every open contract we had to see if we can shift, and especially to see if we can even make all the payments and how much we would spend by the time the fiscal year ends. So we looked at all of that, shuffled things around, and made sure that we had money to cover this particular contract.
If I may, so is the 250,000, is that a whole number that you'll be using for the new contract, that there's nothing less than 250,
It's the whole number.
a whole number? And given your experience now of having this contract for 1 year, is 250,000 the appropriate number?
I will defer to Jeremy on that. One
Now that
second.
we have a year under our belt, know what it costs, what we had to try and.
Yep, Jeremy Mio, Department of Information Technology. This contract is a retainer contract.
Okay.
So it's a break glass contract in case we need to ramp up incident response services through a third party. So we have the contract set where we can use those dollars for other things like training or exercises or preparedness. So we will continue to extend the contract for $0 and looking at how we're going to use that contract. Luckily, knock on any piece of thing that's wood here, we haven't had any large instances to really enact the contract in full-fledged. So that's kind of how it works. It works like a retainer contract. But again, we can use the dollars here and there to get money out of it. So it's not just a retainer that goes away at the end of the year and we just like an insurance or something like that. So we are pretty confident that we could extend to the next year. We probably would like to go out RFP again. It's good to always constantly RFP these type of contracts because of the competitiveness of them and to constantly make sure we're getting the best services.
Okay. Is 250,000, how did you come up with that? How do you know it's 250 if it's just a retainer to be used for other services? Why not 500 or 100,000?
So we previously, these contracts going way back were about around 100,000. So we increased them just based on an analysis that we use based on professional services and just doing things to understand our overall risk exposure. If we had to enact something like this would just get us up and ramping up incident response services. If there was a large incident, we would most likely have to work through our incident response and emergency management and go into potential emergency funding. Just as an example, the city of Atlanta, when they were attacked, it was over, $30 million at the end of the day. But that's because again, if you don't have these services on fixed cost, then all of a sudden you're paying $1,000, $2,000 an hour for an incident response services versus a fixed cost like we have.
Okay.
So it's really something just to get us for emergency services and then really understand the overall risk. Hopefully we never have to use the contract at its full capacity. But we always want to get additional training, exercises, and continue to make sure our risk exposure is going down so we can always keep that contract as low as possible.
If I may, do you know how much of that 250,000 is used for outside of this, the what if we need you contract, the training, all the other things that would be taking money away from the 250,000?
So we can use the full amount for it. So we kind of always, as we're going through the year, we're doing an analysis to make sure that we always have enough money to cover any type of ramp up of incident services, but also so we can continue to use the money for staff training. And again, it's not our only thing that we use, training contracts and preparedness. We have other contracts, but we try to make sure that we can use it in the best way possible. So there is the whole contract has an attachment that has certain services we're allowed to use through them, and it kind of goes for one. They actually take all the dollars and put them into units, and then we can use like 10 units for a training exercise for this, and we just kind of work through the contract and the professional services to plan that throughout the contract period, which we will be looking to do a $0 time extension for.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Thanks for your answers.
If you knew that you're going to extend this for the next year, why not just change? Why wouldn't we have just done that now?
We wanted to get the contract in front of Board Control as quickly as possible, so we just wanted to get the contract. Again, it's already a late contract, so we didn't want to add additional weeks at the end of the year. So I'll let Janelle kind of expand on that.
Absolutely what Jeremy said. We wanted to make sure that we got this to go through. Again, it was late. We needed to make sure we had payments done on this particular contracts. We wanted to take care of that first. And then do an analysis as far as what we used thus far, and then that would determine how long we would have to amend it moving forward.
Questions on this item?
Just
Councilwoman
one.
Baker?
As a follow-up to that, so we are probably going to see this come back to us?
Yes.
And it'll probably be late? Or will you give
No,
us?
no, we
Sorry,
already
this
started
is-
looking at that.
The system already?
No, we already started looking at that, so it expires on December 31st, so we're already in the midst of
So we'll see
processing
you
it.
before the end of the year? to
Yes,
have
you'll see
this?
me again with this item.
Okay.
So for, and
Actually,
just
you might
to,
not
just
have
to
to
know,
come
so
here.
the way that we do, if it's on time, if we do a $0 extension, it'll come back as an item of note if
Note.
it's just a time. So
Ah.
you'll still see it on the agenda as an item of note, but not a voted, as long as it's on time. If it's late, then it'll come back as a voted item.
And we're trying to get it on time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Additional questions?
Thank you.
A day without Janelle at the Board of Control would be hard for us to swallow. Okay, so then presumably moving forward, and I know, Jeremy, you had mentioned that having some sort of competitive bid process moving forward. Obviously, I don't want to speak for the council members. I think that they would be happy to hear that. The other piece is more of a comment, and Councilman Miller, I don't think you'll like this, but honestly, I mean, the way that the cybersecurity world and the problems that it's creating out there, I mean, if anything, I think you may be too low in the dollar amount. I mean, if there's a problem out there, it's gonna be, you know, an enormous amount of infrastructure issues, et cetera. And I'm glad that we have some sort of moving forward. This is great. But I think your comments, Jeremy, about issues in other communities, I think you've mentioned them not for dramatic purposes, but I mean, they're enormous, and they can cause an untold number of havoc with governmental agencies. And so, Dale, I'm sorry that I said that, you know, it kind of intimated that maybe they needed more money, but,
So
I can
just-
comment on that real quick.
just a comment on that. I don't have a problem with that. I'm reading a book right now that says that the biggest threat in the world is climate change and cybersecurity is second. So it's up there.
and that leads right into Foley. believe it or not.
Just quickly.
We're already anticipating a yes vote. He hasn't even gotten up and talked yet.
To expand on that, this isn't our only contract. We have cybersecurity insurance. This vendor is on contract, so there are certain vendors that are on contract with cyber insurance. This is the same one, so we can dip into that, which is millions and millions of dollars. If we have to declare an incident, we get to tap into that money depending on that's covered in a lot of variables. We also do have other service contracts with Microsoft and other vendors that we try to utilize fully, but we're trying to consolidate those. So as much as you might see, I can't say, I hope nothing, you know, we will always probably come back for more money, unfortunately. We're gonna want to make sure that we're using those dollars in the best way possible and consolidating a lot of our services, because we have, between each one of our contracts, we have probably some avenue of security services in each contract. So I appreciate your concerns.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-655, Department of Sustainability, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to the Brindle Group Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $30,000 for consultant services in connection with data collection, processing, inventory development, and data interpretation of countywide greenhouse gas emissions for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Mike Foley, Department of Sustainability. So this is a contract we have with the Brindle Group. We kind of share their services with the city of Cleveland in gathering data around greenhouse gas emissions that emanate out of the county or attributable to the county. And then we report these greenhouse gases to the Global Covenant of Mayors and the Climate Disclosure Project. So the Brindle Group does a great job of just kind of helping us dig through all the sources of data, whether it's electricity, natural gas, transportation, and kind of deciphering that, and helps us to put it into reporting framework for the international covenants that we're a part of.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Do we have any information as to whether greenhouse gas emissions in Cuyahoga County went down in 2020 because of COVID-19, and did they go back up again this year as the economy is?
We won't, Councilman Miller, we won't know that until next year. So the last reporting year we have data from is 2019. My suspicion is, especially in the transportation front, that our greenhouse gas emissions will go down in 2020. That we rely on the utilities especially to give us information at the end of the year, and they usually don't give it to us till the first quarter of a given year. So we have data through 2019 right now.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Why in the backup, if I'm reading this correctly? And, no, I'm not reading that correctly. Okay. So I guess, I understand your reasons for it being so late, but isn't this an annual? So if it's an annual cost, why would you have to go through so much when you know it's coming and, you know, have this into us sooner?
Councilwoman, so we're making it a biannual cost now, right? So it's a 2-year contract, so that's
Well, okay.
That's one thing. 2 is we're a small department, and we basically we screwed up on the procurement early on, and we didn't get the recs in on time, and then you guys went on break, and so and as a small department, Monica, who did a lot of our work, was both the requester and the buyer, and I'm not going to describe any of this correctly, but now, thank God, we're working with Public Works, and they're helping us out in terms of the procurement stuff. So, thank you, Nicole.
So,
Lucky us.
we're willing to cut your break on the lateness in order to save the planet.
If I will say, when we have annual costs that we know are coming up, even if it's 2-year instead of 1 year, we know it's happening. It's not a new project. We've done it for years. It shouldn't be over 4 months late. So I would ask that any contract that's renewed, you would think would have its procedure already in place as to how we ask for those funds, for what it's worth.
No, I hear you, Councilman. You're right. You're right.
Thank you.
Additional?
When did we start with this, with Brendel? 17? I
Yeah.
thought I saw that, and I apologize. Have they issued any reports or any information on the data that you can share with us?
Yeah, so we've got data going back to 2010 through
Okay.
2019. We've seen an overall reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, and depending on the category, some are better than others, especially in the electricity side. But it's like you count this up by metric ton equivalents of CO2. And so in 2010, we had about 27 million metric tons of CO2 we were emitting in the atmosphere. In 2019, we're around 24 million metric tons.
And I mean, did they issue any? I guess more than anything else, if they've issued, whatever we're funding them for, if they've issued some data reports or something along those lines, if you could share them with the council, and you may have already. I apologize, but if you have not, I think that'd be helpful.
Okay. Yep.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. All those in favor, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-656, Department of Sustainability, recommending an award on requisition 7037 and enter into a contract with Solar United Neighbors Corporation in the amount not to exceed $50,000 for residential solar co-op management services for the period November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2023.
Mike Foley, Department of Sustainability. So this is our contract to help do group buying for residential solar purchases. And this is a 2-year contract with Solar United Neighbors, who we've been using for the last 5 years. We went out for bid on an RFP. They were the only respondent. They came back at a price that was consistent with past year prices. And just in terms of effect, the co-op has we've spent, I think, $125,000 over the last 5 years on the co-op, and it's brought in about $4.2 million in terms of solar sales. Supported the 20 local jobs that have been kept up within solar installers in the county. Saved about $4.1 million in electric bills, and helped with the installation of almost a megawatt's worth of solar capacity on people's roofs. So we think it's been a pretty successful program.
Are there any questions on this item?
How come, I mean, it seems odd, because it's an out.
So what these guys do is they do the organizing for an RFP for installers to bid on. So they will, they do these great educational sessions with potential residents who are interested in solar. They'll do like an hour-long session. Here's how solar works. Here's how you integrate into the grid. Here's the the financing costs. Here's what panels, types of panels are out there in the world. So they educate consumers. And then on behalf of the consumers, they'll get we'll have a cohort of you need at least 35 to go out for a bid, but they'll put together the RFP package for installers to bid on. And then usually we don't, a cohort will have at least 100 homeowners in it. And then people come back, they get the bids, the group who's in the cohort will make decisions on who they want to go with in terms of the installer. So it's kind of a democratic process.
I'm more concerned with our RFP that we issue than only one person. That may be. I don't know, I'm just wondering.
There's not many, I mean, as far as we know, they're the only ones who do this in the country. I mean, they've got about 16 states they work with, and they work throughout the state of Ohio as well in terms of doing co-ops.
It's in process still, correct?
Yeah, we had some roof issues out there.
Yeah, so we had to wait to redo some roof work out there, and so we weren't gonna put them up and then take them down for the roof work, so we waited. But I believe it had been going on this summer, so I don't know how,
Now,
fall.
so because there's more space up there, they actually can put more roof solar panels up there. So we're looking, so they're kind of redesigning the top of how many panels can go up. So.
Yeah.
Additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. All those in favor? Is there a second? I'm rushing it. Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-657, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to University of Cincinnati Research Institute in the amount not to exceed $30,250 for effective practices in community supervision and Ohio Youth Assessment System on-site training and coaching services for court staff for the period November 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Tamika Ballard with Juvenile Court. This is a contract that we're going to be working with the University of Cincinnati to do our effective practices in community supervision. It's train the trainer, and we're also going to be, they're also going to be training our staff on OES, which is our Ohio Youth Assessment Systems. This vendor has been written into our reclaim grant, and they're going to be providing 8 days of on-site training for 5 of our court staff for the EPICS, train the trainer, and it's going to be 5 days on-site training for up to 12 court staff for the Ohio Youth Assessments supervision training. I'm sorry, Ohio Youth Assessment Systems training. And we would like to request approval for this contract, and it's also the vendor's also going to be providing 4 to 6 months of technical assistance as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-658, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, requesting authority to apply for grant funds to Ohio Emergency Management Agency in the amount of $306,507 for the fiscal year 2021 Emergency Management Performance Grant Program for the period October 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2022, and recommending or submitting the grant agreement in connection with said grant application.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety, and this is our federal pass-through grant that we get from FEMA, and it's to pay for the preparation for all types of hazards. Specifically, this grant will reimburse us 50% of the cost for 8 members of the emergency management staff, and that's their wages and benefits.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
If I may,
Councilwoman Baker?
just real quickly, this contract ends at the end of September 2022, which is next year, what happens with those that we have included in this grant and no longer will be covered?
EMPG has been going on since, this is my third county, and I was dealing with EMPG when I was with Lake County in the early 1990s. I don't see where it's going to go away.
Okay, so you're pretty confident, and the people that are involved in this understand that this is a part of a grant program?
Correct. This is actually, the match to this is is our general fund budget.
Okay,
So,
you've got that part of it covered.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
Are the dates correct? Because it's fiscal year 2021, but then it starts on, it goes from 20 to 22. It's covering 2 years.
It's really
Okay.
funky the way that the grant years are.
I just want to be sure it was 2 years.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-659, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, submitting an agreement with City of Cleveland in the amount not to exceed $107,625 for reimbursement of related expenses for use of 5 additional Motorola NG 911 workstations located at 4501 Chester Avenue, Cleveland, for the period November 15th, 2021 through March 10th, 2025.
The county right now is going through a hardware refresh of its next generation 911 equipment. And as part of this refresh, the county's right-sizing the PSAPs as to the number of workstations that the county will provide and pay for. Cleveland has requested to maintain 5 positions that are currently slated to be decommissioned. And in doing so, they've agreed to reimburse us the costs for maintaining those workstations.
Are there any questions on this item? Okay, hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-660, Office of the Medical Examiner, submitting an agreement with the Cuyahoga County District Board of Health in the amount not to exceed $60,018 for data collection and evaluation services of fatalities related to substance use disorders, including opioid use disorder and polysubstance stimulant use for the period September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2022.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. This is an agreement with the Board of Health. They received a Department of Justice grant, and we are being written into it to provide some data on substance abuse to them and to the federal government. This will be used to hire an analyst that will work with our forensic epidemiologist on the overdose fatality review that we conduct, and they'll be able to do deeper dives with families of those who have been lost to substance abuse.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-661, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending an award on requisition 7356 and enter into a contract with Advantra Group Corporation, doing business as Advantra Waste Solution Incorporated, in the amount not to exceed $243,846 for biomedical waste removal services for various county buildings for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. This is our renewal of our biomed waste removal service. It was bid out again, and we did add the Department of Public Works to this year's agreement.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yeah. Tom, do you know? Yeah. Because I think it's the buildings that we maintain, right? It's the sharps and stuff that,
Yeah, Tom Havich, Public Works. This is
how did we handle it
the
before?
sharps that are in the restrooms.
No, he's asking how we handled it before, though, if we weren't on their contract.
We were in a previous contract. and then-
Separate.
Separate, and then we're being added to this one. We're piggybacking. Yep. We're trying to do that more often, so.
Let Hughes Group do the work for us on the contract side,
I think we're doing
since we're doing Foley's.
Are there any questions on this item, additional questions? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Boyle. Any, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next
Thank you.
item.
Next item, BC 2021-662, Sheriff's Department, recommending an award on requisition 6527 and enter into a contract with Security Risk Management Consultants, LLC, in the amount not to exceed $98,960 to develop a request for proposals and resulting contract for maintenance services for the Cuyahoga County Access Control, intrusion detection, and video surveillance systems for the period November 15th, 2021 through November 14th, 2022.
Laura Sims from the Sheriff's Department. This is a request for a consultant to help draft the RFP for the next access control and video surveillance system. I'm excited about this contract and the consultant services because we're doing it a little bit differently this time. The Sheriff's Department took over the access control and video surveillance maintenance portion with the last contract. Before that had been handled by the IT department. And the way the contract was written was kind of as a performance-based contract, which is great for them, but for the Sheriff's Department, that's not exactly what we need to have some things for management purposes and reporting and that kind of a thing. As well as we've had issues with when we have a renovation that needs to get done, they'll need to add access control or things like that. So what we've done is we've partnered with IT, with the Department of IT, with the Public Works, and we have somebody from Risk Management from the Law Department in who helped score this contract and decide who the consultant is going to be. And then they will help write the new contract. Right now, we have one contract that's for access control and video surveillance. We have a second contract that is for the intrusion detection, and we're wrapping those up into one. We put out a bid for the intrusion detection system because we right now have a couple different providers for that. So we had put out a contract to put that all under one, and we put it out twice for bid, and we only got one bidder that came back, and it was terrible. They didn't quite meet the specifications. What they were asking for was way too much. Now, as technology has increased, actually ramping it into this will be good because some of that intrusion detection can now actually be, hooked in with the other systems that we have. So, in order to move forward with that, I did get one of the questions that was there, and I'm sorry I was out, on Friday. The current contract that we have for the video control or video surveillance and access control is $468,000 per year. It was a 5-year contract. So we're expecting that the new contract would be a little bit more than that because we're including the or the intrusion alarms as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
So why did we put this out to 40 people and only got one bid? Doesn't anybody want to do business with us?
That is a very good question. And we actually were looking at trying to put it out for bid again, but we're concerned that we wouldn't get anybody else to put in a bid on it. We did get recommendations from the other departments that we've worked with for different consultants that they've used in the past. And so specifically, they were added to the plan holders list and sent that to them. So I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of at the moment is purchasing is kind of crazy because people are hurting for staffing, to be able to fund projects like this. And so it may just be that due to that, we're, having difficulty getting it. I mean, we're having difficulty kind of across the board with procurement, particularly on, things like that have the chips and plastic and that kind of thing, just because of that. Plus, I don't know if you guys have heard, I read this article, and it's right now they're calling, like, this year and last year, the Great Resignation. And that's because so many people have changed up what they're doing and left and quit their jobs. So that's the only thing I can think of. Now, this particular consultant then put in, again, it was, their proposal was reviewed by the Sheriff's Department, the IT Department, as well as Public Works, and we were all pretty happy with we were all happy with what they proposed as far as assisting us.
And do you believe this contract as now presented is fairly priced, or is it too much money?
For what they're doing right here? No, I think it's right about, it was probably, I mean, we had no idea what to expect actually for this. From what we talked with the Department of IT on consultants that they've used before, it's probably a little bit more, but one of the things that we're asking them to do, which may be a little different, is not only write the RFP, but also help review the applications when they come in and help us with the scoring process. We also have made sure that they signed a non-disclosure agreement, so anything that comes from this, they will not be able to discuss with anyone else.
Is this mess why you're only doing a one-year contract?
Well, this is only to write the RFP, okay, the request for proposal. We need somebody that has the right technical services, technical expertise to be able to do that, because we at the Sheriff's Department do not have that, and I know IT, while they may have people who could do that, do not have the time to put this together. And this is in anticipation of the fact that the current contract that we have for video surveillance and access control expires at the end of December of next year. And we're hoping that we'll be able to get this whole process put together so that we can have a new contract in place prior to that.
So you're saying it's gonna cost us almost $99,000 just to write a request for proposals?
Right, except that this is a really complex request for proposal because we're looking at several different systems. You're looking at or video surveillance for the entire county, so all of the buildings that are in the county that currently have access control. Plus, we also have some buildings that don't have it that need it. Some of them are on a different system that we can't even hook into to have them for that as well. Then you're also talking about access control for the entire county as well to make sure that is, and then you're also asking for the intrusion alarm system. So you've got 3 separate systems, and we all need to make sure that they all work together with the systems that we already have in place. So it is pretty complex to be able to put all of that together. In addition to those technical things, we also need to have them help us put together, again, what hasn't been in the contract that we've been finding difficult is management reports and things that would have statistical, reports so that we can, be able to say that we've had, so many, that it's been able to have the access for so many people and so many buildings, and how many issues that they've had to deal with, and how long has it taken them to actually respond to the requests that we've had, as well as set up an inventory system for that whole thing. Because there's so many cameras in so many places right now, we need to make sure that the inventory about that is as well, and getting that. So like I said, it's a very complex contract. What we're intending with this contract is that once the new contract, the one that we're writing this RFP, or the one that they'll be writing the RFP for, that we will have a countywide video surveillance, access control, and intrusion alarm system for the entire county, okay? And in addition to that, they will be looking at the buildings that, like, I think it's Metzenbaum right now, that has an old, like, VHS system or something, or sorry, I'm gonna get the technical thing wrong, but they have an old system. So they'll be looking at those and putting in phases in the new contracts to bring everything up to speed as well. So they're also doing an assessment at each of the buildings to figure out what will be needed to move everything forward so that we have it on the same platform.
So on an annual basis, how much are we paying for this service under the current contract?
For which service?
For intrusion, for access control and intrusion detection and video surveillance systems.
So the intrusion and video surveillance systems, $468,000 a year, and $3,000 for the, probably about $4,500 between all the three that we have right now for that. We're also looking at, like I said, working with Risk to come up with maybe a way of handling some of this a little bit differently that might be able to bring that price down. But again, that's something we need to take a look at.
Any additional questions?
So when we add the additional areas that currently aren't covered, how much more money do you think this is going to require in 2023, and have we budgeted for that?
So for 2022, like I said, it goes through this. For 2023, we tried to budget for the same amount like that we're using now is our baseline for what that's going to happen, but you know, we really won't know exactly how that's going to roll out. So we did try and put that into the budget for 2023 as sort of a placeholder.
So you just put in the same number that
Correct.
you have now?
The same that we're using right now, because again, we have no idea how much it's going to end up being in the long run. But
it's probably not enough unless you can find ways to do this for less, as you were talking about.
Right. One of the ways that we're looking at it, it's come to my attention with it, because right now, and again, I'm not sure how this is all going to play out, so I kind of hate doing this, but one of the things we might be able to do where we've done with some other contracts right now, the current contract is assuming the insurance for replacing anything should it break down. So if a camera dies, if a server dies, the money's in the contract there and in their insurance plans to come in and replace that. Now, there have been some other contracts where if you set aside a certain amount of money to replace things that break, then the vendors don't have to pick up that. But again, that's something we're still in discussions with Risk on to figure out if that could work for us in this instance, and with IT if that's the best way to go. But we are looking to try and reduce the cost of it as if at all possible.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank
Next
you.
item, PC 2021-663, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Trip Log Incorporated for a computerized system to remotely record, submit, and approve travel mileage reimbursement for 950 staff for the period November 15th, 2020 through November 14th, 2021, to extend the time period to November 14th, 2023, to expand the scope of services to include Division of Senior and Adult Services, effective November 15th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $150,000.
Good afternoon, Paul Porter, Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services. This is a contract amendment to the HHS contract with TripLog, a software that allows DCFS caseworkers and employees to record their mileage remotely when they're out in the community driving for visits. As you can see, we're expanding this to include DSAS staff, which represents the second largest traveling pool within Health and Human Services, aside from DCFS, because of the home health aides that go out into the community, the adult protective services workers who investigate abuse and neglect throughout the county, and then the options case managers through DSAS. what we've seen since this program was rolled out last year is that staff really like the ability to record their mileage remotely, sometimes the same day as they're completing travel, instead of having to save up and only record their mileage when they're at a computer in the office. This software allows them to use either a laptop, tablet, even a cell phone to record their mileage. The response from supervisors and from the fiscal team has been very positive about utilizing this versus the old kind of paper and pen approach we've taken in the past. And when we approached the vendor about extending the contract and adding the additional staff, they were willing to give us a price break on the rate per user. So we're going down from $70 annually per user to $67.50 annually per user. So it represents a small cost savings by adding the staff. When the contract started, we had approximately 640 users. That has since grown to 750 users. And the number that we're targeting with this amendment is 950 users. The dollar amount that we put in here would potentially allow us to exceed that 950 user mark if we decide to do so. We left a little bit of a cushion in there. And we identified DSAS as the primary agency that would benefit from the additional users, but we could envision including anybody within HHS that has to do travel as part of their work on this contract. The vendor isn't saying that it just has to be DCFS or DSAS. We just wanted to kind of identify those two main pools of users. Happy to answer any questions on this one.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Paul, would this be able to be expanded to other agencies if we paid for it?
Sure. So what I'll say is I found the agency, I was the one that took the lead on negotiations for the extension, and it was just kind of a shot in the dark saying, hey, will you give us a break on the price if we add more users? They were more than willing to negotiate with us. So I would say there would probably be interest on the part of the vendor to do that. This is kind of a unique program in that it was procured through the STIR program, or Startup in Residence program. It was something introduced in California, I think through the city of San Francisco, and the county joined the pilot program with that Project STIR in 2019. It was a program that paired startups with government entities throughout the country. You know, a small company that might not have received notice of a bid for a project like this or something. So by connecting with a small entity like that, they were able to reach a bigger target audience, and we were able to find a company to work with that's been willing to make adjustments and work with us. So yeah, if you want more information, we can chat offline.
Okay,
about
I'll
that.
send you someone your way.
Sounds
I mean,
good.
our construction workers are the same, I mean, they're daily mileage because they're traveling from
Yep.
site to site. So that would be a benefit, I think, to us too, if we could tap into this and fund it.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-664, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, recommending an award and enter into an agreement with Cuyahoga County District Board of Health in the amount not to exceed $250,000 for child fatality review services for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
Good afternoon, Shauna Rorman, Office of Early Childhood. This is a contract with Cuyahoga County Board of Health to do the Child Fatality Review Program, which is required by the Ohio Revised Code to track, study, and report all child deaths to, both national and state health departments, and to prepare an annual report to the community. Through this program, all the unexpected and potentially preventable child deaths receive an individual and in-depth case review by the Child Fatality Review Committee to better understand the circumstances that led to the death and to make informed recommendations for system changes and programs that could prevent similar deaths in the future.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Moving on to exemptions, item BC 2021-665, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division. Requesting to amend Board Approval Number BC 2021-514 dated September 20th, 2021, which amended Board Approval Number BC 2020-49 dated January 13th, 2020, which approved an alternative procurement process for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021, extended the time period to December 31st, 2023, allowed for monthly repetitive food purchases effective September 20th, 2021, and added funds in the amount not to exceed $1,500,000 to allow weekly repetitive food purchases effective November 1st, 2021. No additional funds required.
Hi, Priscilla Bottomley with the Juvenile Court. We're requesting to amend our current alternative procurement process that currently has monthly and quarterly repetitive purchases to allow weekly repetitive purchases, as our suppliers are unable to bid monthly or quarterly due to the current market conditions.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Is this inability to bid monthly or quarterly expected to be temporary?
It's expected to go into mid-2022. It'll be a little bit. I do have some suppliers that are able to still bid monthly for like our milk, our bread, our fresh vegetables. It's just certain categories that they can only do weekly.
Okay.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-666, Department of Health and Human Services, requesting approval of an alternative procurement process to solicit proposals or qualifications, which will allow the proposal review process to include multiple funding partners and to modify the award process, which may include multiple awards at varying intervals or parts of multiple proposals to be combined for the final award, for the development and implementation of a pay-for-success program model to improve college completion among National Guard scholarship recipients for the period April 1st, 2022 through March 31st, 2023.
Good afternoon, David Merriman, Director of Department of Health and Human Services. I'm here presenting this item with our Department of Contract Administration and Performance. We are presenting an alternative procurement that will enable us to seek proposals from providers, local and national, that could produce a service that will enable National Guardsmen or National Guard scholarship recipients to get into school, college, or a training program, stay involved and complete. We also hope that this model will ultimately enable these recipients to find employment in our community, especially in some of the sector partnerships that we have prioritized. We believe this model is innovative as it's demonstrated its ability to design and build programs to meet the needs of the residents as opposed to follow traditional funding patterns from the federal government. We are addressing a major problem, which is that many Ohio National Guard scholarship recipients start school but do not complete it. So we hope that this will enable the county to play an increased role in both enabling residents to do better, enabling providers to find participants to utilize their programs that ultimately respond to business and community need. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
How are we going to measure success on this program?
There will be a number of measures. The typical measures for a project like this will be to look at whether or not a recipient gets into college or a training program, whether they stay involved in that training program, they complete certain milestones such as if they're in a program that requires math, that they're able to pass a math test, and then ultimately that they graduate and either get their diploma or a credential. We are looking to add to that traditional model by also including performance in being able to find employment, get into a job, stay in a job, and see wage increase. And then the last part that I would emphasize, we also want to be able to demonstrate that employment can be tied to in-demand jobs in our community, namely the sector partnerships.
And why is the contract only for 1 year? It would seem like it would take several years to undertake this kind of a program.
The procurement will produce a contract that will have a 1-year term, but there will be options and amendment years included in as well.
And is this going to be similar to the last Pay for Success program in that we're going to look for investors who are willing to invest in this program under the understanding that we will repay their investment only if success is achieved according to the measures being developed?
That is the goal, that it will be similar in those ways.
Yeah, okay.
No questions?
Are you going to issue an RFQ or RFP? Do you know what you're doing?
This will be an RFP.
Right. And is that what you did in the previous iterations?
We actually called it an RFA, which was a request for applications, which is more of a state and national vehicle. We're a little bit more traditional, calling it a request for proposals.
All right, because my concern, it's not a concern actually, but I was worried that you've got an optimistic start date, Q2 or Q3 in 2022. And so I assume you can use that RFA as a template for this moving forward.
That's correct. We've already got the RFP written. It's ready to go. We thought we should come to the Board of Control first to get their approval, as this will look and feel different if we come back with an award.
And describe the population that typically receives National Guard scholarships. And is this a program where they get a scholarship to be trained as a National Guardsman?
No, so this is much like the college scholarship funds that are associated with being a veteran of the U.S. military. This is just for the graduates or the men and women that have completed their service in the National Guard. So the scholarship has traditionally enabled those guardsmen to go to a 4 or 2-year college to start a college program, to get through a college program and graduate. In this most recent budget bill, that program changed and now allows for the Guard scholarship recipients to also go to a credential training program. So there are now 2 paths to moving forward for these recipients. They can go to college and get support, hopefully through this program, or they can go to a training program and work on a credential. These are generally individuals that have completed their time with the National Guard, but there could be some that are moving back and forth as well.
How many on an annual basis do you expect to run through this program? And like the last Pay for Success program, is there going to be a control group?
We're still assessing that. That's not something that we've made final determinations on whether or not we'll do a randomized control trial. We think statewide there are around 600 individuals that would be eligible for this if it were implemented statewide. We expect that number to be, probably 10 to 20% for Cuyahoga County. We're still validating. We think it's going to be between 100 and 200 per year that are served.
Okay.
Additional questions?
I guess I'm just curious, we are targeting the National Guard. Is there a reason why we are isolating that group of people over others that could benefit from this program?
So in essence, this is a pilot and a new approach. We're really trying to be innovative. We're trying to grow the approach. There's a story associated with this, that this proposal was initially developed by the Adjutant General's office working with the Ohio Department of Higher Education to address a very clear need or opportunity on their part. That program did not get funded in this current funding year. We stepped in and suggested that if we were to pilot it in our community, possibly we could validate it, we can demonstrate its success, and maybe the state of Ohio will look at it. So we have in essence intercepted a program that was designed for statewide implementation. But because of our background and our experience with Pay for Success, as well as our ability to work very, I think, competently with the workforce providers and education institutions, we feel like it's best to pilot in this environment where it could be successful.
Good to know. And so given if this pilot is successful, this could be a model for others.
It could.
And the question I asked about what is currently in the fund, I believe you have written $5 million.
That's correct.
So Is this money for the most part for programs like this, or is it a broad range of different programs that fund the Social Innovation Fund?
So the fund has limited uses. It can only be used to make success payments where there's a demonstrated outcome, either cashable savings or an improvement in services. So it's very restricted in how it can be used. And ultimately, when we come back with a contract, we would have to demonstrate how the proposed award and contract aligns with the fund's legislature.
Do you typically use the $5 million that you ask for?
We've only had the fund in place since 2015. We've only used it once, and it was used effectively for that purpose.
For the entire amount?
Yes, we set the prior arrangement up, the first Pay for Success project based upon that fund. We did a full implementation. The results were not achieved. We did not make any payments out of the fund.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-667, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, doing business as Starting Point, in the amount not to exceed $1,620,682 for implementation and management of the Child Care Access and Quality Expansion Program for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
Shawna Rorman, Office of Early Childhood. The goal of this contract is to improve capacity and quality in child care centers in Cuyahoga County. This includes improving the quality of center-based child care with technical assistance, coaching, and training for providers, providing scholarships through the TEACH program, increasing the number of centers participating in Step Up to Quality, which is the state's star rating system, and increasing the supply of quality child care by supporting startup or expansion of early care and education programs.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-668, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, doing business as Starting Point, in the amount not to exceed $2,708,844 for management and administration of the Family Child Care Home Professional Development System for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
Shawna Rorman, Office of Early Childhood. Starting Point implements the county's Family Child Care Home Professional Development System, which aims to support family child care homes in maintaining their licenses and getting them rated or increasing their rating in Step Up to Quality. Starting Point also provides resources to focus on the quality of family child care and help ensure optimal learning environments for all children.
Thank you. Is there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Councilman.
Just curious on this, thank you. Do either one of these programs coordinate with the UPK?
So they're related to UPK in the sense that UPK is a small piece within the larger system.
Okay.
So we do work with Starting Point to implement UPK on the ground, but these services are available across the county regardless of whether the sites are part of UPK or not.
Okay, but it is outside the UPK scope.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
So during the last state budget, there was a substantial discussion about the quality standards, and some supported continuing the plan to increase the quality requirements, and others wanted to do away with the system completely. And they ended up opting for a middle ground in which they kept the current standards in place, but they did not advance the quality requirements. My question is, have you heard any further discussions since then as to what the mood of the state is regarding this program?
I know there continues to be a lot of advocacy locally, obviously across the state as well. I think that it's, I would say, contentious, perhaps. I think that there is appetite to sort of keep it where it is. I know there are some folks who want to get rid of the system altogether, as you said. It seems that we're going to be able to hold on to the system, but honestly, I couldn't really say. It's an ongoing discussion, something that we're paying attention to, obviously.
Okay, well, in this political environment, any certain predictions would be foolhardy.
Yes.
Thank you. Any additional questions on this item? Okay, hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-669, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, doing business as Starting Point, in the amount not to exceed $4,442,092 for the Special Needs Child Care Program for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2023.
John Rorman, Office of Early Childhood. Under this contract, Starting Point coordinates the county's special needs childcare system with the aim of supporting children with special needs in their early childhood setting. Starting Point subcontracts with local agencies who provide services in childcare centers, including working with children with behavioral, medical needs, and providing coaching and training to teachers on how best to support those children, the overall goal of keeping them in their center as opposed to moving them somewhere else.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Hearing none, I make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item. Moving on to the consent agenda items.
Right, moving on to consent agenda item number BC 2021-670.
Okay, let's take a second to review. Are there any questions on the consent agenda items today? None. Hearing no questions, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Is there any public comment?
No public comment?
All right, make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Before we move to adjourn, just a question is, do we have visibility as to the, whether the meeting on December 27th will be canceled?
We haven't had that discussion yet with the county executive. I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Now make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. Clerk?
I like that foresight, Dale. All I do.